Ladies and gentlemen, um, there's a quiet strength in learning how to step back and give space to those around us. It's not about being distant. It's about creating room for connection, allowing others to appreciate your presence by sometimes stepping away from it. There is a vulnerability in choosing not to be everywhere for everyone all the time. And that vulnerability, my friends, is where our power lies. At the core of human connection lies vulnerability. And yet it's one of the most misunderstood concepts in our lives. We often associate vulnerability with weakness, with being exposed or fragile. But if we truly understand it, we'll realize that vulnerability is one of the most profound forms of strength we can embody. When we talk about stepping back, about giving space for others to miss us, we are speaking directly to the power of vulnerability. We have been conditioned by society to believe that we must always be on, constantly available, constantly giving, constantly present. It's as if our worth is measured by how much we do for others and how much we show up. But the truth is, when we allow ourselves to step back, to take a breath and give room for someone to feel our absence, we are allowing them to truly understand what it means to have us in their lives. Vulnerability is the willingness to show up and be seen, even when we don't have control over the outcome. It's a willingness to let others see us without the protective layers of perfection, the constant doing, or the endless availability. And in that space, we allow for something beautiful to happen. We allow others to appreciate us, not just because we're always there, but because we bring something unique, something authentic, something that isn't constantly available to them. It's in our moments of absence that our true presence is felt the most. By stepping back, we are essentially saying, I trust that my value is not contingent on my availability, but on my authenticity. We are no longer using our presence to seek validation. Instead, we are giving others the chance to recognize the gift of who we are when we are truly present. Vulnerability takes courage because it asks us to let go of the need for constant reassurance. It's easy to stay in the game of always being needed, always being present, because that gives us a sense of security, a sense of worth. But it's also exhausting, and it doesn't give us the opportunity to live authentically or to allow our relationships to grow deeper. When we embrace vulnerability, we free ourselves from the illusion that we have to do everything and be everything for everyone. We create space not only for others to miss us, but for ourselves to miss the joy of our own company. In that space, we rediscover our own worth outside of the roles we play for others. Vulnerability allows us to reclaim our energy, our time, and our self-respect. And the beauty of vulnerability is that it's not just about stepping back for others, it's also about stepping back for ourselves. It's about saying, I am worthy of moments of rest. I am worthy of being seen for who I truly am, not for what I do or how much I give. It's about knowing that our worth is inherent, and it does not depend on how much we give or how often we're there for others. So vulnerability is not about weakness, it's about strength. It's the strength to say, I can show up authentically, but I can also step away when I need to. It's the strength to trust that in our absence, others will learn to value us more. Vulnerability is the courage to trust in ourselves and the strength to let others do the same. Emotional boundaries are not just a protective mechanism, they are an essential component of our well-being and our ability to have meaningful relationships. When we talk about giving others the space to miss us, we are essentially talking about honoring our emotional boundaries. The ability to set these boundaries is not just about saying no to others, it's about saying yes to ourselves, our needs, and our emotional health. In our modern world, we are often conditioned to believe that emotional availability is a sign of love, loyalty, and dedication. We are told that being there for others at all times, without fail, is a reflection of how much we care. This leads many of us to believe that if we set boundaries, if we step away, take time for ourselves, or decline to always be emotionally available, we are somehow being selfish, uncaring, or distant. But the truth is, nothing could be further from the reality of emotional health. Emotional boundaries are the lines we draw to protect our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. They are the clear, healthy limits we set to ensure that we are not giving so much of ourselves that we deplete our energy, compromise our sense of self, or become overwhelmed by the demands of others. The act of setting emotional boundaries is one of the most loving things we can do, not only for ourselves, but for the people in our lives as well. I think of it this way: if you constantly give of yourself without rest, without replenishment, you eventually reach a place of burnout. You begin to feel resentful, disconnected, or even drained, and this impacts the quality of your interactions. When you don't have emotional boundaries, you risk losing yourself in the service of others. Your sense of self-worth becomes wrapped up in your ability to please, to be needed, and to be available. But true self-worth doesn't come from fulfilling every need around us. It comes from honoring our own emotional space and being mindful of how we engage with the world around us. Setting emotional boundaries is not about rejecting others or cutting off love. It is about creating a healthy space in which both you and the people in your life can thrive. It is about allowing yourself the time, the space, and the emotional resources to care for your needs, whether that's rest, reflection, or simply being with yourself. And when you do this, you can return to relationships with a greater sense of joy, clarity, and capacity to give, because you have taken the time to honor and replenish your own emotional resources. When we don't set emotional boundaries, we teach others that it is okay to drain us, to take without reciprocating, and to depend on us to fulfill their needs without consideration for our own. This creates a dynamic where we are constantly in the position of giving without receiving, which leaves us feeling exhausted and unfulfilled. Moreover, when we lack emotional boundaries, we also fail to teach others the importance of respecting their own boundaries. If we are always at the beck and call of others, we implicitly tell them that it's okay to neglect their own emotional well-being. Boundaries are an act of self-respect, and by setting them, we teach others how to respect us, and in turn, how to respect themselves. Now, let's talk about the importance of being missed. When we set emotional boundaries and take space for ourselves, we create opportunities for others to reflect on the value we bring to their lives. It's in this space that they come to understand our worth. Too often, we give so much that others come to expect us to be there at all times, and they forget to appreciate our presence. But when we step back and create emotional space, we provide them with a chance to recognize the significance of what we offer. This is not about playing games or manipulating others. It is about creating the conditions for meaningful and balanced relationships. We allow others to miss us because we are teaching them to appreciate what we bring, not just as a provider or a constant source of support, but as a person worthy of space, rest, and respect. Emotional boundaries are not about building walls. They are about building healthy, respectful spaces where both parties can flourish. When we step away and take the time we need, we invite the possibility of deeper, more authentic connection. We teach others how to show up for us in ways that honor both our needs and theirs. Remember, by setting emotional boundaries, we empower ourselves to be present when it matters most. We ensure that our energy is used wisely, that we are emotionally nourished, and that our relationships are rooted in mutual respect rather than one-sided expectations. In this space, we are more likely to show up as our most authentic, vibrant selves, and when we do, our presence becomes something truly cherished. So don't be afraid to set emotional boundaries. Don't be afraid to take the time you need for yourself. In doing so, you're not only honoring your own emotional health, but you are also teaching others to value the gift of your presence. Emotional boundaries allow you to be fully present, but they also teach you and others the power of absence and how absence makes presence all the more meaningful. In a world that is constantly demanding our attention, it's easy to believe that the more we show up, the more we're needed, the more we are appreciated. We often fall into the trap of thinking that our worth is tied to our visibility, to our constant availability, and our perpetual presence in the lives of others. But there is a profound truth that many of us overlook sometimes. Our absence can amplify our presence in ways that our constant availability never could. Let me explain this in more depth. There is something powerful about taking a step back. When we allow ourselves to be absent, to take time for ourselves, or to create distance between us and others, we give space for the value of our presence to be truly recognized. Absence, when used with intention, is not a sign of neglect, it is a statement of worth. It is a way of saying, I am valuable enough to take time for myself, and when I return, my presence will be felt in a deeper, more meaningful way. Think about the times when someone in your life has been constantly available to you. At first, their presence feels like a blessing, like a gift. But over time, when someone is always there, we can start to take them for granted. We begin to expect their presence as a given, and we may lose sight of the beauty and significance of their contributions. We come to assume that they will always be around to fulfill our needs, and in doing so, we fail to appreciate just how much they give. Now, consider a person who is not always present. They come and go, and when they are there, they are truly there, fully engaged, deeply invested, and offering a presence that feels richer and more meaningful because it is not constant. The absence of this person, the times when they are not around, actually makes their return more impactful. When they do show up, we are more likely to notice their presence, to appreciate their time, their energy, and the unique value they bring into the room. Their absence amplifies the significance of their presence. This is not to say that we should withdraw from those who love us or disconnect from important relationships. Rather, it's about the intentionality with which we engage with the world. It's about recognizing that there is power in stepping away and allowing others to feel the void when we are not around. When we show up too much, we may unintentionally dilute the significance of our presence. But when we give others the chance to experience our absence, we allow them to recognize just how much we mean to them. In relationships, whether personal or professional, the concept of absence is often misunderstood. We fear that if we take time for ourselves, if we create emotional or physical space, others will forget us, or worse, stop valuing us. But the opposite is true. Absence invites reflection. It creates a space for people to miss us, to remember what we bring into their lives, and to appreciate the moments when we are present. It allows us to return with greater clarity, energy, and intention, which only strengthens our relationships. Absence also allows us to reconnect with ourselves. When we are always present for others, we often lose touch with our own needs, desires, and sense of self. We give so much that we forget to replenish. But when we step away and create space for ourselves, we are reminded of the importance of our own well-being. We are reminded of our own worth and the value of nurturing ourselves. In this way, our absence from others is not a form of neglect. It is a necessary act of self-care that allows us to return to our relationships stronger, more present, and more whole. Think about this: when we are constantly available, we can sometimes fall into the trap of becoming background noise in other people's lives. But when we create space, when we give others the opportunity to feel the absence of our presence, we return as something more powerful, something more needed. Our time, our energy, our presence becomes more valuable because we have taken the time to replenish ourselves. In many ways, letting your absence amplify your presence is a form of strategic self-respect. It's about understanding that your worth does not depend on how much you give or how often you show up. It depends on the quality of what you offer when you are truly there. By stepping back, you are not withdrawing your love or your commitment. You are simply giving the relationship the opportunity to breathe, to recalibrate, and to grow stronger in your absence. This idea of absence also works on a deeper level, especially in professional and personal environments. When we take time away from a project, a role, or a social circle, we allow others to step into their own space. They have the opportunity to appreciate what we bring, to recognize our contributions and the void that we leave when we are not around. This dynamic creates mutual respect, fosters growth, and allows the relationships to thrive rather than stagnate. The beauty of letting your absence amplify your presence lies in the deepening of connection. We often believe that constant interaction strengthens our bonds, but in reality, too much contact can wear down the significance of those connections. By taking intentional breaks, by creating room for others to feel the weight of your absence, we allow for a deeper appreciation of each moment we do share. Remember, absence doesn't mean disengagement, it's about balance. It's about creating the conditions in which your presence is truly valued, in which others recognize the power of what you bring. It's about cultivating a sense of self-respect and mutual appreciation where both you and those around you can thrive. So I encourage you to take time for yourself. Step back when you need to. Create space for others to appreciate your presence and understand its true value. In doing so, you'll return to your relationships with greater intention, greater authenticity, and a presence that is felt more deeply than ever before. Absence, when used wisely, doesn't diminish you, it elevates you. Let your absence amplify your presence, and in doing so, create stronger, more meaningful connections in every area of your life. As we bring this conversation to a close, let's remember this powerful truth: our worth is not defined by our constant availability or the volume of our presence. In fact, sometimes our absence is what allows our true value to shine. By embracing vulnerability, setting healthy emotional boundaries, and allowing our absence to amplify our presence, we teach the world and ourselves the profound impact of intentional space. When we take the time to step back, to nurture ourselves, and to protect our emotional energy, we not only protect our well-being, but also allow those around us to appreciate the depth of our contributions. Our absence gives others the opportunity to reflect, to miss us, and to recognize the significance of what we bring to their lives. It's not about playing games or withdrawing to manipulate outcomes. It's about creating the conditions for stronger, more meaningful relationships built on mutual respect, self-awareness, and true connection. So embrace your power to step back. Honor your emotional boundaries, allow space for reflection, and understand that when you choose to step away with intention, your presence will be felt more deeply than ever before. You are not defined by how often you show up, but by the impact you make when you do. Let your absence speak volumes, and when you return, you will find that your presence is not just seen, it is profoundly valued. In this journey of life, let us choose to be intentional in how we give, how we show up, and how we create space. Let us allow our absence to amplify our presence, and in doing so, cultivate relationships that are more fulfilling, more authentic, and truly life-changing.